What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Taste Like Music. Jason and Joe here. This is our Album of the Week series, but I think we might just change the title of it at this point. Maybe we'll call it Patron Selects or something like that. These are records selected by our patrons. These videos don't get a lot of views anyway, so maybe a name change could help the algorithm. Today we are talking about a record by a band called Splinter. Actually, I never even knew this existed, but a Beatles connection. They were the first band signed to George Harrison's Dark Horse Records. And yeah, I don't know how this one slipped by me. I never even was aware of this, but the record's called The Place I Love. It's from 1974.
Kind of amazing. We just did the 74 deep dive, and I don't think a single person ever mentioned this album. We never found it. I never saw it anywhere mentioned. And like it's the first album on George Harrison's label. Like how do you miss and he produced it and played on a bunch of tracks. Like how on earth does that like just completely not show up anywhere?
His whole crew's on it too. So
Yeah,
we'll talk about that later. But
it's bizarre, but yeah, we can get into the album itself.
yeah, so it's a vocal duo, two guys, Bobby Purvis and Bill Elliott. They were discovered and managed by Mal Evans, who was closely related to the Beatles and was friends with George. And I don't know if he had, I don't know what his like role or if he had a part in Dark Horse at all. But yeah, that's where they came from. That's how they get connected to George. So the songwriting, it's a little bit of a mixed bag. It started out pretty weak for me. The first couple songs I think are not very good. The first song, Gravy Train, not a great introduction to this band. And then, yeah, the next song, Drink All Day, I think is very lightweight. And at that point in the record, I'm thinking this is going to be about as bad as something connected to the Beatles could possibly be. Yeah, my expectations at that point were pretty much wiped out. And I was thinking, all right, this is just going to be like a lame, generic 70s, mid 70s vocal duo thing. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it goes on this string of very good songs right in the middle of it. Really turns things around with China Light and Somebody's City and Coast to Fine Town. I think those are all excellent songs. There's a couple other strong ones later in the record too, like Situation Vacant and Ellie Mae. So yeah, I think overall the quality of the songs are pretty high. It's just unfortunate sequencing wise that the two worst songs are the first two on the record.
Yeah, I mean, songwriting, it's sounds like the Beatles. Which Beatle? Yes. All of them. I mean, it sounds a lot like George Harrison songs. It sounds, I thought Situation Vacant really has like a Lennon-esque chord progression. Somebody's City, he kind of gets this, that gritty Paul McCartney vocal in the chorus where he kind of gets a little more intense. A lot of George Harrison, obviously, since he played acoustic guitar, electric guitar, 12-string dobro, mandolin, bass, harmonium, percussion. He did, everything. He's backing vocals. He had a big hand in this one, so you do get the Beatlesy sounding songwriting. And I think you're right. Like Gravy Train kind of starts off with like these disco notes, and then it goes into like kind of boogie woogie kind of funk, and it's a really bad first impression for what the band sounds like, because it doesn't sound anything like it for the rest of the album. There's a couple songs that kind of have like a country rock almost sound to them. I think Drink All Day is one. And then one of the other ones, which is a little odd, but I think they do it decently well. I think Somebody's City and Coast to Fine Town, which was a top 20 hit in America, which no idea, never heard it mentioned, ever, never heard it played, but it was a moderately large hit around the world. So I think those two are really good, and I like Situation Vacant. And I mean, I think songwriting, it's pretty solid, even if it is like, yeah, it sounds like George Harrison, the Beatles, and Badfinger and whatever else.
Musicianship on this record, you already mentioned that George plays on a bunch of it, and he plays a bunch of different stuff throughout the record. But there's also just throughout an incredible array of players on this. Gary Wright's on it, Klaus Vormann, Billy Preston, Willie Weeks, Jim Keltner, Alvin Lee, Mike Kelly. It's just, yeah, all the big names that are often associated with Beatles solo projects.
Yeah, every instrument sounds amazing. They're all played really well. I don't know if there's any like super standout moments, but like ensemble playing wise, I think it's all really strong. And there's some, really nice acoustic guitars and electric guitars, and bass playing on a couple tracks is really good. And yeah, you look at the names and the players, and it's pretty obvious to see why it sounds good because they're all amazing.
The production on this record, so we said George produced it, and it was also engineered by Phil McDonald, who engineered Material World. So it does sound how you would expect it to sound. It sounds a whole lot like mid '70s George Harrison solo records. Plus, you have that Beatlesy kind of songwriting on a bunch of the tracks. Maybe to its detriment, the degree to which it sounds like George and the Beatles. I mean, I do like that sound a lot, and you know, it's hard to say. I don't know that their talent level would, I don't like without that around them, would this be worth it at all? Like, I think it is kind of buoyed by that sound and the fact that it does sound like the Beatles. That's like the good thing about it, but it's also like that's what it is. So I don't know how much sort of like artistic, um, you know, identity they have on their own. So uh, yeah, I don't know where that leaves it, but
Yeah, it's like, would this be like the British Loggins and Messina if it wasn't for like all the Beatles and the amazing players and that kind of sound? Maybe. I mean, I think these are fine songs, but I think the production does a lot to lift them into pretty, strong earworm status for a couple of these. And I must note that, 1974, George Harrison put out Dark Horse, which sounds kind of terrible. So it's, this sounds a lot better than the album that George Harrison put out that same year, which is a little ironic.
best and worst tracks. Best for me, there's a couple contenders, but I'm going with Somebody's City. Worst, I think, is pretty easily the opener, Gravy Train.
Somebody's City, also my favorite. I really like George's guitar work, that fuzzy guitar tone, textures and stuff. Nice stately McCartney like piano arrangement. Like the horns on this. A couple spots. There's some really good horn arrangements. And least favorite, I don't know. Probably Gravy Train. It just doesn't fit. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel like if it was the last track on the album, you'd be like, where the hell did this come from? So yeah, it just doesn't work.
Score for me, it's maybe almost a 4, but I'm at 3.5 on it. I just don't think it has quite enough of its own thing going on, and there's just maybe one or too many tunes that like don't work and don't fit in. So
Yeah, I guess it has to be 3.5. Thinking like what else came out in 74 and where this would rank. I mean, it was a good listen, and I might, pencil in Somebody's City as a top, 150, 100, 200 song in 1974, but probably high 3.5, like a 7.9 maybe. Right close to 4 stars, but it just doesn't quite get over the hump for me.
all right, well, let us know if you've heard this record, what you think of it. If you haven't heard it, go check it out and stop back and tell us what you thought. Thanks. I believe this was Dylan, not the Dylan that you know from Discovering Dylan, but another Dylan in our Discord that put this one up. So good pick, interesting to hear, and yeah, I'll have to check out. Are there future Splinter records? I think there are.
Yeah, there's like 6 of them or something. There's a fair amount. They didn't immediately break up, but this is the only one with a Wikipedia entry. I know that.
All right. Well, thanks for watching. Make sure you hit like the video, subscribe to the channel, check out our Patreon if you're interested. and all the stuff we got going on over there. You can join our Discord. We're doing song reactions now. You can vote on classic album reviews and all kinds of other stuff. So check it out. Links in the video description. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.